Okay, I'm gonna do another one of these garden stroll videos. I'm gonna focus on the cottage garden for this clip. This is the main entrance that we use going in and out of the house. It's not the front door, but it's the side door that opens up into the family room. So start here, just on this border strip. These iris are in full bloom. Not really sure which cultivar it is. It came from a mid-Atlantic gardener named Gita, and always nice to have pass-along plants. This one's really pretty. The blooms are very dark purple. Just added these campanulas last week when I went up to that greenhouse in Lancaster. So hopefully these will fill in. Trying to reestablish this border strip. It has seen a lot of changes over the years. And lately, over the last couple years, it's just been destroyed several times with all the construction we've been doing out back and Mike running over it with his heavy equipment. So it's ready to be reestablished this year. Hopefully no more construction damage to it. I also am trying lavender in pots this year. Never have had luck with lavender in the ground. The conditions that they like just are not what's here, so I can give them what I researched about the conditions they like if they're in a container, so we'll see how they do. And then this is my one and only real success with growing something from seed. It's a lamb's ear, and I don't know, I probably grew these from seed about 8 years ago, and from about half a dozen plants, maybe a dozen, I have gotten big clumps to spread here in the cottage garden area. Moved a bunch from the bigger area over to this border strip at the end of the summer when our construction with the back patio was done. Now this little fox, there's a story behind that. My friend Jill and I go to the Philadelphia Flower Show pretty much as an annual event. It's what we do to kick off our spring, and it's fun to get away together. So we kind of go crazy at the vendor booths, and a couple years ago we both purchased this little stone fox, and we never think about how heavy they are and how we're going to get all the packages back to the car, because she uses one of those zippy carts, and we can load it up with packages in the basket in the front and hanging off the back. And so we just purchase away with nary a thought of how we're going to get it from the convention center to our car. So that year it had been snowing and we were parked at least 3 blocks away, and I loaded up 2 backpacks and 2 big shopping bags for either arm and trudged through the snow. And I thought, oh my gosh, never again. It's gonna take, I didn't know if I was gonna make it that 3 blocks with all that heavy stuff, but we did. And now we both each have one of these cute little fox statues, and makes me remember our trip and the fun times that we always have when we go. More of the lamb's ears. And then this plaque was in my grandmother's garden all the years I was growing up. I always loved it, and when they retired and moved to Florida, she gave it to me. And now that she's passed on, it's got a lot of sentimental value. It's one of my favorite things in the garden. Well, this Baptisia, it's purple smoke. I love Baptisia, but when I planted this here, I had no idea what conditions it liked, how big it got, how hard it was to move, and it really outgrew this space. This is just emerging. It will get probably 5 or 6 times this size as the season progresses. So I try to dig it up and relocate it. I couldn't do it. It was so deep. There was this long taproot, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. And then Mike's brother Richard came over, and he gave it a try. He actually broke my stainless steel handled shovel trying to pry out that root. But we got it, and I tried to relocate it. Actually gave the biggest section to my friends David and Pat. They've got it in their garden now. But it came back the next year, bigger and stronger than ever. And so now I just say it can stay. And what I end up doing as it gets really too big for the spot is trim back all the outside perimeter of it and try to keep it within bounds just by pruning it back. Pretty. When it does bloom, it's purple. Got some lilies back there. Window box that I've got the stuff for to plant later this afternoon. The tall bearded iris back there is called Mary Frances. It's the first bearded iris I ever bought many years ago, and I got it specifically because of the name. Mary Frances was my grandmother's name. So got that, and it's a very pretty purple. I think it's one of the ones that have been around for quite a long time. In the back are peonies. The cultivar is Vivid Rose. I got this one also because of the name. My other grandmother's name was Clara Rose. She went by Rose, and she was a very vivid kind of woman, not a stereotypical grandmother at all, so it makes me smile every time I see these in bloom and remember what an eccentric, crazy, unusual woman she was. The statue is called La Breza. It had been on my wish list for many years. I saw it in the back of a gardening magazine, and like I said, put it on my wish list. Never really thought I would splurge and get it, but I had been working on a project at work for a couple years that took so much time, lots of overtime in addition to the long hours I already worked. And so at the end of it, when I got a bonus, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with that money, and I purchased this statue. Such a beautiful, beautiful, uplifting statue this is, and when the peonies are in full bloom, it's really nice. The trellis was something Bonnie and I saw on a walk through Middleburg one afternoon when I met her there for lunch. She works in Middleburg, and there's a deli over there that is really good. We like to meet up and sit outside at the deli when it's beautiful outside, and then we'll stroll about the town of Middleburg. It's one of those really old, historic Virginia towns, and just beautiful architecture, beautiful old gardens. And we saw this, and I thought, you know, that wouldn't be hard to make. So I took a picture of it and showed it to Mike, and he had it put together for me in just a couple of hours. So now I've got clematis growing on the back of it, and we'll see how it does. It's a pretty new feature to the garden. I've also got these lilies. That's called Black Beauty. They get about 6 feet tall, and the petals curve backwards. And when they're in bloom, I'd say in late July, the butterflies just cover them. It's a really pretty plant in bloom, one of my favorite oriental lilies. Siberian iris. That was a pass along at one of our Mid-Atlantic get-togethers. It's purple. Have no idea what cultivar it is. And there's another clematis growing on that trellis. It's called Diamantina, and last year was the first time it bloomed, so this will be the 3rd season that it's been growing there. Another piece of garden art. This is a plaque. And then over here is a lilac called Miss Kim. When we first moved in here, I got 7 of these bare root and I planted them all along that border strip, but they got really large and blocked the view to the house. They were very overgrown for the space, and Mike is allergic to lilacs, we have discovered, and so that many in full bloom was doing a number on his sinuses and allergies, eyes watering, the whole 9 yards. So when a storm came through, heavy winds, heavy snow, they damaged the lilacs that were further out on the border strip, broke most of the branches off. So at that point we were going to move them anyway, but that just prompted it to happen even sooner. So they're now out along our easement coming into the property. They still haven't rejuvenated enough to a nice full size, but lilacs are very hardy and they'll come back at some point. That's Daffodil Talia. It's a white. It's another one that's been around for a lot of years in the market. I think it's an 1800s type cultivar. Anyway, I like Talia, and I planted a clump of them there last fall. Now this area of the border strip, it has undergone so many changes over the years, and with all the construction that's been happening on the back patio for the last 3 years, it just pretty much got destroyed, whatever I had planted in there. So one of my goals this year is to get that looking good again. And that's about it for the cottage garden.